Welcome to another episode of Core Connection. As always, I'm your host, Patrick Bloodgood. In this episode, we take a deep look into what it takes to keep commerce flowing along our nation's rivers. We also travel to sunny Florida to escape the cold and take a look at a major project milestone to help with Everglades Restoration. In addition, we'll go to Miami, where USACE is working with officials there to develop a plan to help the area mitigate the risks of coastal storm flooding. Those stories all coming up on this edition of Core Connection. During the winter each year, USACE districts monitor snowpack and ice levels to help determine how much inflow may be expected in the spring from runoff, as well as get an idea of when they can open the nation's waterborne navigation system for cargo to safely travel on some of the nation's inland waterways. We take you to the St. Paul district as they go out and take measurements on Lake Pepin to see exactly when they can open navigation season.
I'm Cole Atkinson. I'm a survey technician for the St. Paul district of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Today we're doing an ice survey 17 miles along Lake Pepin to check the thickness of the ice. The purpose of doing the ice surveys is to measure the ice thickness. Lake Pepin is the widest part of the Mississippi River, and so that allows us to get a good baseline as to how thick the ice is as opposed to the more narrow parts of the river. And in turn, that will show us when towboats will be able to start going up the river, or at least give us an estimate of when navigation of the channel can start to happen again. We go to a set of predetermined river miles, and we will go to a river mile marker, drill a hole, measure said hole, and record that data between the thickness of white ice and blue ice. Blue ice being what everybody calls black ice, so it's more clear. And white ice would be white ice that has more air bubbles in it. After we record that data, we will then move on to the next river mile marker, and we will continue to record that data until we send it up, and then we can monitor the changes as the season passes.
We stay with the St. Paul district and their navigation mission. The district sat down with one of their water managers to discuss exactly what he does to keep things moving along the Mississippi.
I'm Dan Foshing, and I work in the water management section of the St. Paul District Army Corps of Engineers. It's my job every day to monitor the water levels on the Mississippi to ensure a navigable depth. So my day-to-day job is providing safe and reliable navigation, and that means maintaining a minimum navigation depth. The locks and dams on the main stem Mississippi don't have enough storage or ability to reduce flooding impacts, and instead they pull their gates out of the water and they let the river restore to a natural state and let all the flood flows pass as quickly as possible. What you're going to experience during a flood situation is that if you were to go and see the locks and dams, you would see all their gates pulled out of the water at a certain point. And what you'll notice is that the tailwater, i.e. the water below the dam, is going to come up and meet the pool level or the headwater of the dam. And so literally there's no room to evacuate any more water any quicker than the dams already do. Each dam is a little different. As you go up and down the Mississippi, each one has a different amount of threshold that when they reach a threshold that they have to pull the gates, but all of them you will notice that the tailwater will come up to meet the headwater. So from a water level management, as far as the navigation locks go, they just don't have the storage capacity to really reduce flood risk. And so that's why I like to think of them as drought control, not flood control.
Keeping the nation's navigation system moving is a major task, one that requires annual maintenance during scheduled outages on the locks and dams throughout the entire U.S. The Walla Walla district recently caught up with their technicians as they perform annual maintenance on the navigation locks at McNary and Snake River dams to talk about how important it is to keep these engineering marvels up and running.
Well, recently we had a nav-lock outage we just completed a few days ago. It's about a 2 to 3 week outage usually, and we inspect the nav lock for damages either incurred by just usage or water intrusion or concrete spalling. It's an annual inspection.
It was a rare opportunity to look at the locks and they're dewatered and see everything that's involved with the infrastructure and what's done to maintain that. And this is one of the 8 dams on the Columbia Snake River system, and this is the 7th of the 8 for me to tour. I'm currently the president of Pacific Northwest Waterways Association. I'm a port commissioner with Port of Whitman County, and I am a grain grower in both Washington and Idaho. The Snake River Columbia River system is a river freeway, and it is no different than interstate freeways, and the dams are as important to the water freeway system as a bridge is to the interstate freeway system. And because of the work that is done at the same time, the grain companies can plan for the outages, the cruise ships can plan on the outages, and because they're doing the work in advance of something that is catastrophic, the outages are minimal.
The intent of the inspection ensures a safe operation throughout the year for all the barges and recreational craft that we get. The team that came in and crawled all over it and inspected it, if they find something, they let us know, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be a negative report. It'll be good to operate another year until they inspect it.
One of the very unique things about the Portland and Wallet district is they have a outage that is at the same time because the entire system, they're all interdependent, and not all core districts work in conjunction throughout the country like these two in the Northwest Division does. And that's a good thing for all the consumers.
The Pittsburgh District is working on a lock replacement project which will expand the capabilities of moving commerce along the Monongahela River at Charleroi, Pennsylvania. The district takes us on a walking tour of this massive construction project.
Hi, I'm Steve Dine. I'm the resident engineer at the Lower Mon Resident Office for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Pittsburgh District. Today, I'm going to take you on a walking tour of the Charleroi River Chamber completion project. For a lot of people, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to see these mass concrete placed and go from nothing to what we have out here now. Everybody works on buildings, bridges, roads. Not everybody, but a lot of civil engineers do. But to have the opportunity to work on a large civil works project like this, dams, locks, we don't build these every day. And it's a great opportunity to be involved in a project that's going to be here for the next 100 years. It's amazing to me that we build these things. To go from when I first was coming out here, there's still the old dam was here. We were building the coffer box, and this was all water through here. Like, this was all the river. Now coming out here, we've placed about 250,000 yards of concrete out here, and this is what you end with. You go from nothing to something that's going to be here for the next 100 years. It's a great experience, and to walk out here every day to be able to see it through the process, to me it's pretty amazing. I've been on this project for 4 years. A lot of handoff through the years. I want to say I'm the 3rd resident engineer on the project. You have these projects that last so long, you have to have a good stable of people coming up through the system to make sure you can transition these projects and complete it. So one thing about this project, you get a lot of steps in, a lot of mileage on your boots walking around here. This is the upstream side of our new chamber. We've got our upstream bulkhead, our miter gates, and you can see all 8 intakes for the 2 culverts the length of the chamber. The top part here is the miter sill, where you see the one gentleman walk in. That's where the miter gates will close, create a seal, so then we can lower the pool and keep it at low pool for locking boats. Currently, we're heading down into the miter sill basin. So the water will come down the bulkhead here, and then it'll go into our culvert intakes. So there's 8 intakes that come down into 2 culverts to fill the chamber. So how this works is we'll open our gates inside these intakes and it'll pull the water in. And the water will shoot down our culverts, and then we have some ports in here where the water will come out of the ports to fill the chamber up to upper pool. So what these culverts do is they disperse the water at various points in the chamber to help fill the chamber safely, consistently, and it reduces the turbulence on the boats that are locking through the chamber. And in a couple months, these will be underwater for a very long time. We'll be the last people to come through these chambers or these culverts for years until we dewater them again. I always think like the magnitude of these projects is so large that it's hard to picture just looking at a drawing or a picture. Like when you're actually walking it and experiencing it, it's a completely different feel. You get the magnitude, the size of the project. So these are the culvert intakes with our large trash racks, which are just steel slats, and these will stop any large debris from coming in. This is called our gallery. So this was that big structure that when we're looking downstream, you saw the big concrete structure with the intakes. Right now we are walking over the intakes. In the future state, this whole area will be submerged when we're raising and lowering the pool for passing river traffic. On our tour, we haven't done enough steps, so now we'll head up top. This is where the lock operator will be working. They'll have computers, and there's monitor cameras throughout the project where the operator will be able to see different areas of the project while they're locking a boat through. With the new chamber, it's wide enough, designed for these new barges, that they can keep the barges coupled together, floated into the chamber, and get down on the lower pool or upper pool and continue on their path. It'll reduce the time for a lockage in half, at least. Thank you for joining us on this walk-in tour of the Charleroi project. We'll see you in a few months when we're filling the chamber with water.
We turn our attention now to the Sunshine State, where the Jacksonville District is continuing to work on projects to improve the environment, working to restore the vital Florida Everglades. They recently celebrated the start of construction on a new reservoir, which will help send fresh water south through the glades.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District, and the South Florida Water Management District, along with federal, state, and local stakeholders, joined forces to break ground for the Everglades Agricultural Area Reservoir Project.
Today's groundbreaking is testament to the fact that the Army Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management District, all of the stakeholders, communities that are invested in these projects, they're up to the task. So congratulations to everybody for the groundbreaking here today.
With the backdrop of two massive granite piles used for the construction site, Colonel James Booth, the Jacksonville District Commander, welcomed the crowd and assured them of the continued commitment to advance Everglades projects.
And many consider the Everglades Agricultural Area Reservoir to be the crown jewel of the comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. The reservoir is truly going to be a game changer for the Everglades and for South Florida. We have a monumental project ahead of us. When completed, we'll have built a 16-square-mile reservoir covering the area similar to the cities of Stewart and Fort Myers put together.
The EAA Reservoir is one of 68 projects outlined in the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan. The project is comprised of two main components, a storage reservoir and a stormwater treatment area.
Currently, we're moving forward with construction on the EAA reservoir with what we call our Contract 10A, which is the inflow-outflow canal and seepage canal. That project builds two canals north of the reservoir to help maintain water flow into the reservoir. That water is going to come from Lake Okeechobee into that canal and then flow into the reservoir. We then also have additional projects that are going to build a approximately 28 to 30 foot levee around this site.
USAID is constructing a 10,500 acre reservoir. It is a massive deep water reservoir that will store excess Lake O water, preventing it from being discharged to the coast. Its footprint will span approximately 16 square miles once complete.
So this project is massive because it can take water from Lake Okeechobee. And so we can take about 6 inches of water off of Lake Okeechobee and bring it into this reservoir. So this reservoir is meant to hold a large amount of water so we can hold it during our wet season. We get a lot of water at one point in the summer, and then during the winter we don't have as much water. So what this reservoir is doing is holding that water when we don't need it, and then when we do need it in the drier season, it can send it south to the Everglades to rehydrate the Everglades.
The Everglades Restoration is a 50-50 cost share arrangement by the Army Corps of Engineers and the South Florida Water Management Districts. The total cost of the Central Everglades Planning Project EAA phase is estimated at $3.9 billion. Everglades Restoration builds resiliency for South Florida and the Everglades. This project is a major component of the comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan that provides engineering solutions for our nation's toughest challenges and reconnects Lake Okeechobee water to the Central Everglades.
Now here we are today, and this year, I mean, when have we turned a concept and an idea in Senate Bill 10 into finishing a wetland treatment system and starting a massive, incredible reservoir in 6 years? That doesn't happen. So do not ever doubt the folks at the Jacksonville District. I see you, Colonel Kirk, that was there at the time. The Jacksonville District and the South Florida Water Management District. We're ready to get busy. We're going to get stuff done.
Reporting for USAID, I'm Davina Fuller-Bender in South Bay, Florida.
Sliding over to the coast, the Norfolk District is working with Miami-Dade County to devise solutions on how best to protect the area from impacts of coastal storms through a multiple line of defense mix of nature and natural-based solutions, along with other engineered structures.
It needs to be permittable. Are there any conflicts?
Multiple stakeholders from around Miami-Dade County met with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers representatives during a charrette held at the Port of Miami in early March to work on reinitiating the Miami-Dade Back Bay Coastal Storm Risk Management Study. The updated study is looking to include additional alternatives with multiple lines of defense that include natural and nature-based features to help reduce the risk to an area that is at high risk of damage from storm surge.
Storm surge in particular is one of the most damaging and consequential aspects of a coastal storm or a hurricane.
Miami-Dade County developed the two new alternatives following an earlier charrette held this past November. The first looks at living with the rising waters, utilizes additional natural-based features like living shorelines, restoring subaquatic vegetation, mangrove trees, as well as raising structures and floodproofing structures and infrastructure that can't be raised.
We're doing what we call a reset to look at a more nature-based approach. This is very important because we all live here with the water, and we don't want to just create barriers. We want to work on ways that we can divert water more naturally and work with our coastal cities and also our Back Bay and inland cities to have a more equitable approach that will benefit more of our communities.
The second alternative being looked at is a combination of measures.
The Atlantic coastline incorporates previous studies, previous measures, especially the Miami Beach renourishment, which is already a Corps authorized project, and reinforcing that project and then protecting the greater Back Bay area by coming up with other structural measures, really to protect the whole Back Bay in a multiple line of defense. And it incorporates natural nature-based features.
Throughout this reinitiation process, officials say a key component will be local input.
We're looking forward to getting input from our community.
We are committed to
working with Miami-Dade and getting feedback from the public, which is critical to the success of this project, to get buy-in from the public. This is part of their solution to mitigating storm risk.
The additional alternatives will be presented to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, the Honorable Michael Connor, in August for an evaluation of whether it can proceed further or not. If given the approval, a full feasibility study will be conducted and additional public input will be sought.
We're so pleased that we've had multiple offices of the Corps involved, and that in this administration with Assistant Secretary Connor, we've been able to say, please, let's start fresh and look at some new alternatives that will be better received, better accepted by our community, as well to incorporate some of the nature-based solutions that are gaining prominence all around the world.
From Miami, Florida, Patrick Bloodgood. That completes this month's edition of Corps Connection. We will be back next month to once again highlight what your U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is doing for the nation and our servicemen and women. Until then, this has been Corps Connection.